Hello boys and girls, welcome back to a mission a day. This is me, Lorenzo, and I'm hosting today your 6th mission into the Kerbal system to gather money and science. As you can see, we have the tech tree here. On the last mission yesterday we unlocked the fuel systems technology, and in this mission today we are going to use none of it. We're going to do the mission to slam a probe into Minmus, and I alluded on the previous episode. Here, this is the mission: crash on Minmus. Straightforward, pays us 80,000 krones. Select that. I alluded on the previous episode that we might be doing a science focused mission to both land on Minmus and on the moon to return some soil samples. We will definitely be attempting that tomorrow. The thing is, in this mission plugin, it doesn't specifically credit you for that, so we have saved up about 180,000 cronies now. After today's mission, that should be well over the 200,000, and much as in real life, we can then use our own money to do a science mission we like, and then go right back to the career plugin, to the mission plugin that will give us actual monies. So, to the mission at hand today, I have designed a rather, I think, over-engineered ship to crash something on Minmus. Something simpler might have worked just fine, but I like the looks of this one. We are starting with a full SRB stage, 3 of the big ones, and then we have one big cigar that will launch this probe on a collision course to Minmus. It has brought science on the way, so we can do experiments, transmit them home before the probe perishes. We have 2 light boosters here on the side that will fire in conjunction with this liquid fueled engine hidden behind the shroud as soon as these 3 flame out. I think this is a little bit of overkill, but it does look nice. Now, you might be wondering why I'm using so much solid fuel boosters, as they are quite a lot less efficient than their liquid fuel counterparts. The reason is cost. We are worried about cost in this plugin, and as you can see here, these liquid fueled engines, they cost about 3,000 each, and that's just the engine, not counting any fuel. For the solid fuel boosters we pay 200 and here 400, so that's an order of magnitude less, and we still pay for the fuel, but that's about on par for the liquid fueled engine. So using this solid fueled rockets, it saves us a lot on engine cost. I'm getting a wait a second, I'm getting a circular marker next to my cursor, so I'm just going to go and see if all the recording software is doing well. Well, everything turned out to be hunky-dory with the recording software. Don't know what that cursor was about. Anyway, here we are on the launch pad, preparing for launch, and as we did on the previous missions, as long as nothing untoward happens, this will be fast forwarded. See you in space. So here's the big moment. The maneuver node for a Minimus Collision has been set up. I am not confident the fuel we packed will be enough, but we'll be seeing that right now as I'm igniting this engine. We'll be needing a 20-second burn. Yeah, I think we're going to make it. And then halfway there, we're going to make a course correction. We're halfway through our burn. The fuel is far more than half gone, and then I hope I can make a course correction halfway. That will put us on a collision course, because I do not trust I have enough fuel to make any course corrections on the way. So let's get this maneuver node out of the way. We are not quite there yet. What I'm now going to do is I'm just going to blindly increase speed very slowly and see if we make the encounter. So just a dab of throttle. Here goes, the apoapsis is rising towards Minmus. You need very tiny velocity changes to increase it this far out of Kerbin. So here we have a closest approach. If we increase that just a little more, there we have the encounter. It is a wobbly encounter. This means that the system isn't even sure that it is going to happen, but rest assured we will make it happen. So for now we can do some science here, transmit that back to Kerbin while we're in the vicinity, although I think the mystery goo has been completely depleted. Yes, 0.9 points, so that's not worthwhile. Although maybe this materials bay has something better to offer. It's 13.5, but remember, just a 20% rate on that transmission, so we've got nothing better to do, so we are going to go for that 2.5 science points if we have the power to do the transceiver. This materials base is a lot of data, it takes a long time to transmit. Are we in the sun? We are in the sun, but the vessel is blocking most of it. We're going to make a somersault to catch some solar rays. And hopefully, I do have to turn off the stability system or it will turn me right back. So if we put our head, the probe here, with the solar panels into the sun, we might be able to get a little bit more electricity. Yes, this is, I think, an optimal angle. And here we go. The last 0.1 science points are in the bag. So, what we are trying to do here on this mission is impact Minmus. Now, this may seem like a silly video game contrived space mission, but in fact NASA did something very similar, I think just a year, maybe 2 years ago. They sent a probe to the moon, and it was consisting of two parts. First, both of them orbited for a bit, gathering data, doing their science things, but then when the mission progressed, they programmed one of the parts to impact the moon at a high velocity to create a large dust cloud, a shower of debris that would be interesting to study, and they timed it in such a way that the second part of that very same mission flew through the dust cloud from that impact, and it did some very good science from that. In this mission we have just the one part, but still I thought that would be nice to share with you guys. So here we are halfway along our trajectory, and now I'm going to try and make a maneuver node that will change our course in such a way that we will in fact impact Minmus. And I am not going to use any measure of rocket science to do this. I am just going to use this maneuver node system and tweak it. And it's behaving very jittery. I have no idea if what I'm doing will actually help anything. And it's being so jittery because Minmus is tiny and it has a very small sphere of influence, so whatever I do will throw my trajectory in and or out of that sphere of influence. Yes, if I put it on 5 times time warp, the jittering ceases, because then my vessel isn't rotating anymore. And no, it doesn't cease at all. It only ceases when I'm not doing anything. So we have a periapsis here. You know what? This jittering is too much for me. I am just going to pray and hope that we have enough fuel to change the course when we get there. So let's punch that time acceleration and see what we can do when we're there. You see, Minmus is a little bit farther out than the moon, but this is quite a lot farther out of Kerbin's gravity well. This means that on the top of this trajectory we will be going almost at 0 meters per second relative to Kerbin. It's comparable to throwing up a tennis ball. At the top of its trajectory it will be going very slow, and this is also why a trajectory like this takes far longer than twice the time to go to the moon, because the second part of the trajectory is a lot slower, so it takes obviously a lot longer. So I'm going to reduce the time warp here for this sphere of influence transition, and then we're going to plot our burn to impact Minmus. So here we go, and I'm going to completely kill the time acceleration. And first, now, before we do anything else, we're going to do some novel science right here from the edge of Minmus space. We get 40 points for this, so we can transmit that immediately. And we got 16 science points on that. We get 100 points from the materials bay, which is great, although we're going to get 20% of that, so that's 20 science points in the bag. Nothing to scoff at. And let's see, we managed to complete the transmission on what power we had. So we're going to observe the goo again, 30 points, 40% for that. It's a little bit less than the materials bay, but the transmission costs a lot fewer electricities, so we can do that. So now we're out of power, we are going to do our maneuver node, and hopefully it will be a little bit less twitchy this time around. So I am first of all going to slow right the hell down, and then just going to aim our trajectory into Minmus. Now this should do it, but maybe we can do it with a little bit less delta V expenditure. Of course we don't really need to hit it head on. If we hit it just on a mountain, that should do it. This is still decreasing our delta V expenditure. Still decreasing it. So here we go with 170 meters per second. I'm not convinced that's the optimal, but we're gonna go with it. And after that burn, I think we will have enough electricity to do some more science. And then we can sit back and enjoy the spectacle of smashing into Minmus. I know I'm looking forward to it. Oh, stop. Time warped over the window. Doesn't matter, still going to do it. And here we go. Let's see if we have an impact trajectory yet. We do not, so we continue to burn a little bit. Here we go, we have a periapsis of 0. And there we are with just enough fuel in the tank on a definite collision course. I just want to take this opportunity to give myself some props for every time designing these rockets with just enough fuel in the tank. I'm not sure if I'm doing it the most efficient way, but I sure am doing it in some way that well, I'm not, let's put it this way, I'm not bringing millions of spare tanks, so that always makes me happy. So we can do this transmission again, we can do this transmission again, and then we are going to time warp to a lower area of Minmus. And when we get back, or at least this probe won't get back, but when we get back to the space center, we can do some quality science. So let's time warp back. Well, let's time warp to a lower orbit of Minmus, or well, it's not really an orbit we're in. We are headed for the ground, for God's sake. So we are at, let's see if this counts as a lower region of space yet. Observe the goo. In space high over Minmus, it's still the same, but we can just transmit that again. We're still getting good science from it, and as long as we're just falling, there's nothing else we can do really. So here we go, going to time warp again until the batteries are full, and can do one more round of science. So now, in order to not make this video unnecessarily boring, I am going to continue straight to the low Minmus impact point. So let's see, we're at 50 kilometers now, going at a quite pedestrian 250 meters per second, but as Minmus is so small, these kind of speeds are sufficient for orbital maneuvers. This is still counts as high space, and as we are already quite definitely on a collision course, I am just going to burn the remainder of the fuel directly into the surface, just to make sure for any bystanders we are absolutely on a collision course. Here, have a look, we're burning straight down. Usually not the way you want to get down, but hey, might as well burn that last bit of delta V. And gee, there was a lot of delta V left in this rocket. Scratch that, what I said about me timing the experiments perfectly, or designing the rockets perfectly. There was a lot of leeway, about 100 meters per, about 1,000 meters per second. So much so, I am having a hell of a time transmitting the last science. We just made it, and here comes the crash. Here is the crash. We crashed on Minmus. And hopefully the people at home managed to do something worthwhile with that debris cloud. We did the mission. We finished the mission, and we have now 217,000 cronies for our science mission of tomorrow. The game quite rightly decides we have no business remaining here on Minmus, and we are going back to the space center. So, even though this is the first mission where no actual vessel survived, we sure did transmit a lot of science. So we can go have a look here in the science control room, the R&D building. We have 200 points. We gained about 180 points on that mission. Pretty good, if I do say so myself, for a mission that didn't bring any people to make observations. So this impactor probe wasn't useless at all, not in the slightest. And so we're first going to get this bit here, 45 science points. And it will give us the larger tank and the radial engine. Nothing quite spectacular, but I have a hunch that on this bit of the tree there will be some goodies. So research this, and what are we getting here? The next logical step for rocketry is to just go bigger. I cannot agree more. These are the big fuel tanks, the big engines that are required for as you might imagine, the big rockets. So to recap, we have 157 science points. These all cost 90, and these here cost 160. So we cannot get these, the advanced sensors, the advanced electricity, the solar panels, and here the tiny engines for probes and rovers, which we definitely want to check out sometime, but not quite yet. We can choose now for one of these technologies: the wheel, which we don't need, the thermometer, which we will need but not quite yet, the rocket of the the other probe part, some stabilizers and winglets, we don't need that, jet parts, don't need that, larger structural parts, we might need that because we now can make larger rockets. And what we have here, no, we need this for the larger rocket, so we're going to get this, the heavy rocketry, for 90 science points. And this has now unlocked for us the heavier rocketry. There may be an upper limit to how large a rocket can be built, but we're not there yet. Larger engines, larger tanks. This is all for the future. As I said, tomorrow we are going to go, we're going to do a science mission to the moon and Minmus, and to collect some rocks and bring them back. The mission controller plugin will reward us a little bit for this Minmus mission 2. It asks us to land an unmanned probe there. We will just go there manned instead and hope they give us credit. I can tell you they will. And then we're going to go to the moon, collect rocks from there, bring that back to Kerbin, and then hopefully we'll have a smattering of science to unlock many things to complete these things that are going out of the Kerbin system. So all that remains for me now is to tell you thanks for watching. If you liked it, leave a comment, I always love reading those, or subscribe, tell all your friends, and have a nice big YouTube party. Have a good night, morning, evening, or whenever you happen to be watching. Goodbye.